Hey, 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 and welcome back to the Fully Booked Photographer podcast. And oh my gosh, I cannot believe we're at this time of the year. That it's near, when we're recording this, we're sort of a week out from Thanksgiving. Once Thanksgiving comes, it's going to be the holiday season. And then the world starts all over again in 2024. But here's the big problem that we see. We see people waiting until January to start their business planning for 2024. So then by the time it's finished, January is gone. And you go, oh my gosh, I haven't finished that plan yet. And we all know that a plan is a compass. We all know that without that compass, it's like being brushed out to sea by a tidal wave in your little oar boat and it's windy, it's wet, you can't see more than 2 foot in front of you. You have 2 hours of water left, after which you're going to have to drink seawater, and nobody wants to drink seawater. And you have to decide, so which direction is land? And where should I start rowing towards? Because I have 2 hours of water left. So that's where a plan comes in, right? That's all it is. It's just a way to have your compass for what you want to achieve in 2024. But Janine and Jonathan, we've been going through this process now for 4 weeks with our Fully Booked Photographer Inner Hive members, right? And it's been some journey that they're on and they're not finished yet. So we thought, why not bring some of this to our listeners? So you guys also know what you should be thinking about to prepare your 2024 plan at this stage. So Janine, one of the frameworks we use for this, we call our lens framework, right? Because we've started to turn all of our business training into elements of equipment that a photographer uses, right? So Tony Robbins has taught us that if you can turn something that people don't know into something as an analogy to what they do know, that the learning speeds up and becomes much more powerful. So that's what we've tried to do. So Janine, I would love you to explain to us in photography terms, right? When you, not in your business necessarily, right? But when you might use as a photographer a wide angle lens.
A wide angle lens. Well, I would use a wide angle lens when I need to get a lot of subject into the frame of the camera and can't back up a long ways to get it. So a lot of landscape photographers use wide angle lenses because they're trying to get an entire scene, an entire landscape. Wedding photographers will use a wide angle lens because they're like in a church and they can only get back so far and they want to get that couple on the altar. A portrait photographer might use one in the studio. If you have a very short area to photograph and you can't back up far enough to use a different type of lens. So when you want to get a lot into the frame of focus.
So if you want a big picture or a big photo, right?
Well, not a big photo, but yeah. if you want to get a lot into your frame, yes. If you want to get a lot into your frame,
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So you're trying to capture a lot in the frame, and you're either restricted by the amount of space you have to work in to get everything in, or you're, as you say, you're photographing a landscape, and there's a big area to photograph. And that's why we've chosen the wide angle lens, right? To be thinking about, we call it Envision the big picture. That's what the wide angle lens is about. So you're looking as part of this planning process, not just out to 2024, but we're going to go beyond that. So I thought it would be fun for us to talk about what that process looks like, right? Because what we encourage people to do is start to think about, where do you want your business to be in 5 years' time? So we're not just thinking about 2024, we're talking about 5 years' time out. But the big thing with this, Jonathan, when we start to think out that far, right? Because it's hard to actually get there, right? Because we're going to be restricted by our current experiences. So part of this visioning process is that we have to dream a little. Jonathan, you like to dream a lot. Tell us about the importance of dreaming.
I knew that you were going to pick on me for that one. Yes, I love to dream. It's always easier to dream than to do, right? So, when it comes to 5 years out, you don't want to place any limitations. You want to feel unlimited. So, imagine that you had a magic wand. I'm sure you're going to tell us. And you could wave that magic wand. What would your life look like in 5 years' time? So let's make it real, a little bit real. Let's set the date. So when is the date? Today's day of recording today is 10th of November. This podcast being released the 20th of November. So 5 years from now is, give us a date, Ron.
2028.
Well, what we actually did was we got our members to think about, we're at the end of 2029. Right, so in theory, you could argue that's 6 years, but it's a 5-year plan because it only starts at the start of 2024. So we won't know how well we've done to the end of 2024.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So let's say we're on New Year's Eve, 2029. Right. 31st of December, 2029. We want to bring you there, and you're absolutely right, Jonathan. Because the reason why we need to go there is when we're doing this process, we need to talk as if we're in the present tense. So I know Janine does this all the time. She has the Fully Booked Photographer time machine that she bails into on occasion, which means that she can dial in then the 31st of December, 2029. So Jonathan, I think we should go there. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. Bring us through the exercise, and everyone should be following as you're listening.
All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to get out that wide angle lens and see your time machine. And I want you to get into the time machine. So hopefully you've all your eyes closed now, guys, right? So get into the time machine.
Get your hand off my leg. My machine isn't that big. Move over.
Stop touching me.
Close the door of the time machine. You hear it banging, right? And there's a dial in front of you. Now, I want you to dial in on that dial, December 31st, 2029. All done? Now, I want you to hit go. Okay, we're there. We've got there. Okay, so open the door and look out, right? So what I want you to do now is get out of your time machine. And we're all going to walk into your business, whether that's could be anywhere, right? So your photography business now could be anywhere. You could be in your home studio, if that's your definition of success. You could have 10 studios in 10 different locations, if that's your definition of success. But wherever it is, I want you to get out of the time machine. You're at your business. I want you to walk up to your business. I want you to open the door, and I want you to walk inside. And I want you to look around. And I want you to think about how many people are working there. Are you a solopreneur working by yourself? Do you have one assistant? Is there 10 people working in the studio? What do you see? What do you see around yourself? And then what I want you to do is I want you to walk back outside, and I want you to go home. And that might be just leaving a room in your home to go into another room, to go straight into the kitchen, or you may be walking across your garden and you're going in, or you may be having to drive your car to get to your studio, or you may be flying in your helicopter among multiple studios. Wherever that is, right? I want you to fly home. I want you to drive home. I want you to walk home. I want you to open the door and go home. And none of those are better than the other, right? Because you define your success, and only you. But I want you to walk into your home, and I want you to look around, and I want to see who is there, who's in your home. I want you to look down and see on the cupboard all the photos of the holidays you've been on this year. Look at them. They're all there. You have all your books laid out with all of your holiday books. Pick them up and have a look at them. It may have been one holiday. It may have been 3 holidays. It may have been 5 holidays. It may be 7 holidays. Maybe 10 holidays. And then what I want you to do is I want you to walk into your bedroom and there's a full length mirror there, right? And you're going to look into that full length mirror and you're going to ask yourself, ooh, how fit am I? So see yourself 31st of December, 2029. How fit are you? Have you looked after yourself? And then what I want you to do is I want you to go down. I want you to open the garage door and I want you to tell me what sports gear is around, right? What sport? Have you taken up a new sport? Is there a sport that in 2023 you said, I want to master that sport? And what is it? Okay. Now that you've done that, I want you to go back out. I want you to get back into the time machine. I want you to close the door and I want you to dial back in November 2023 and I want you to press go. Okay, now we're back, right? So the important thing to do now, and we're not going to do this on this podcast, right? But the important thing to do now, we're going to talk about some of these things, is to write down what you visualized your life in 2029 to be. So Jonathan, do you think it would be a good idea just for me to share with people what I've written down when I did this process?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
All right. So when I did this process in 2029, this is what I want. So having helped thousands of photographers to help hundreds of thousands of people create a better life for themselves through photography fills me with joy in expanding our difference maker revolution and changing our industry's mindset forever. So that's one of my goals for 2029 to have achieved. The second one is I have a management team that run our businesses daily, so I can concentrate 100% on strategy development and ensuring we deliver on our difference maker mission. I love watching the sunrise from my beachfront property and staring at the sea from my oval 360-degree office. So it was never my idea to have a 360-degree office. But when I heard Tony Robbins saying that was one of his goals, I went, wow, that would be cool. I want that too. And then my fourth one is I am the fittest I've ever been. And my BMI target for the first time, I'm at my BMI target for the first time since I was a teenager. So I'm 54 now. I'm going to be 59 then, right? I've never been at my BMI target since I was a teenager. So I'm going to get there. And as Jonathan will tell you, I got golf clubs as a gift for Christmas from him and his mum 2 years ago with golf lessons. And I've only been out twice and haven't done the lessons, twice or three times. So here's a really difficult target. I have a golf handicap of 13. So Janine and Jonathan, you might have noticed something about some of those, right? You might have noticed that they're all written in the present tense, right? So I love watching the sunrise from my beachfront property and staring at the sea from my oval 36-degree office. So I'm living that now. It's in the present tense, yeah? It's a really important thing in goal setting that we have to do that. We have to put everything into the present tense. So Janine or Jonathan, have you any goals? I don't know whether you guys have actually gone through this process fully yourselves, or is there any sort of goals that come to mind that you guys have for where you want to be in 31st of December, 2029?
Don't all of us jump at the same time, right?
I was just about to say, like, the silence is absolutely deafening.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ronan, this going through this exercise was actually very difficult for me this year because it was the first time I had to think about the fact that my 5-year plan doesn't involve both of my children. And it was really like to think about the fact that Erin's going to be possibly graduating from college at that time, and New Year's Eve that year, I wonder if she'll be with me. I won't have control of her schedule. She's going to be in college. Who knows where she'll be? She hasn't picked her school. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like, oh my gosh, like, so it kind of really changed how I like looked 5 years out, because looking 5 years out, I need my life to be at a point where one of my kids is away and one of my kids is home. And so it just a little scary. It was a little bit of a different take on the exercise this time when I actually sat down to do it. because the 5 years takes me into a transition point in life.
It is interesting. And Janine, did that cause you to not want to do it because you didn't want to face that might be a possibility?
Yes. I actually I'm not going to think about 5 years from now. It was really hard. It was, so for anyone, I can tell you right now, for anyone who knows when they look 5 years ahead, there's a life change in there. I can see why this is a difficult exercise because it was really hard for me to do it. And
did you still do it?
I did, reluctantly.
Okay.
But I did. And so, but there was more business goals that I put in than personal goals because I still am it's just so weird not knowing what college she'll be at, not knowing, I mean, gosh, 5 years, good Lord, she could, have found someone and gotten married by then. You know what I mean? It's like, geez Louise, am I going to be at a wedding? Am I going to be at her college graduation? Am I going to where am I? And I don't know, my mind just started swimming because so I started going down all these rabbit holes. But so then I brought it back to business related. So if my daughter is off gallivanting the world, how would I want my life and my business to look so I could follow her and stalk her wherever she goes? I'm kidding.
But isn't that nice to know too, though? That, being even aware that that's a possibility allows you to plan for that.
Yes.
And allows you to say, well, how will we deal with this? That you're going to crave spending time with her.
Right.
And Erin, we know, she said she'd love to travel, right? I think you've said that to me in the past. So wouldn't it be great to have a plan to say, well, part of my planning is that I'm going to take extra vacations so that I can take some vacations with her.
Right. Well, it's interesting because one of our members, Jennifer, she travels a lot to see her daughter. She lives in Hawaii. Her daughter lives in Phoenix. And so she's sort of inspiring me this year going through this process because I realized she was able to still run, she's a stage ahead in life of me because her kids are already grown. And so being able to see her still run her business and be able to travel to see her kids, it was inspiring to me to know you can do both and see both. And you can still you don't have to be retired to go after, to do things with your kids that are grown. At the flip side of you with your children all living with you still.
Not all of them, just the one.
I'm just kidding. But anyways, so it affected my business goals a little bit because while I have always wanted my 5-year plan to include me being more of a, CMO, Chief Magic Officer, and less day-to-day, this kind of solidified it even more in my mind that I want to have someone in the studio that can run the studio, so a studio manager, have my 2 photographers that I have now fully up and trained, have basically the studio be able to run daily without me, and I basically control the marketing, the ideas for the studio, where we're going with the studio, the set concepts, the theme concepts. So all of the conceptual ideas for the direction of the studio, but not the day-to-day. And that's really where I want to be in 5 years. So I don't have to be here every day.
There you go. Isn't it great, though, that you have 5 years now to make that happen, right? Rather than getting there in 5 years and going, oh, sugar, Erin's off flying all the time. I never get to see her. She's traveling.
What am I
going to do?
She's going there, right? Well, and I want to have the, and so a little flipped I want to own places that she would want to come to, right? So we've already talked about I want to have a beach condo. I want to have we want to have a condo in Vegas, the different places that we all like to go. So then it would entice her to come back. So yeah. But I can only do all that, and I can only do more with our mission here if I'm not so bogged down in the studio with the daily grind. So it's closer than a 5-year goal. That's really honestly a 2-year goal for me, 1 to 2 year goal, and working on getting the right people in place. But in 5 years, it needs to be humming.
Well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there because we are at this stage of just imagining 5 years' time. But we do, as we say all the time, the best way to eat an elephant is one small piece at a time.
Right, yes.
And when we create this 5-year goal, it's like it's a big elephant. And if we think about it too much, we just won't do anything because we say, oh my gosh, there's no way I can eat an elephant.
Yep.
So we will get into that in a few moments. But I thought that, Jonathan, you might talk to us about, which is the next step in this, which we haven't gone through yet, But the next step in this is that once you identify what you would like to do in bullet points, like I did, that we all identify with stories. So we need to turn it into a story. But can you just talk to us, Jonathan, a little bit about the power of story, and by turning it into a story, how it helps us?
Oh boy, that's a difficult question. So, as humans, I think it's easier for us to identify with stories. And some of the greatest movies you've ever watched are just stories. You know, it's the director telling a story about whatever, using a similar framework, you know, throughout. And it helps to make it more, because basically our lives are stories, right? Everything that's happening on a day to day, even if it's mundane and monotonous for some people, it's still your story. It's still happening. And you can still tell a story about, I don't know, how exciting or how boring your life is, I guess. But having individual points doesn't make it feel real. When you take those individual points and you create a story around that, you begin to start visualizing and imagining it happening and being the case. So it's easier for you to mentally comprehend it.
So why don't we give an example around that? What do you think? So here's what I think we'll do. I'm going to read out the points as they were before, right? And then I'm going to read out the story so that people can grasp the difference. Yeah? Okay, so here were the points from before. So point 1, having already helped thousands of photographers to help hundreds of thousands of people create a better life for themselves through photography, fills me with the joy in expanding the difference maker revolution and changing our industry's mindset forever. Point 2, I have a management team that runs our businesses daily, so I can concentrate 100% on strategy development and ensuring we deliver on our difference maker mission. 3, I love watching the sunrise on my beachfront property and staring at the sea from my oval 360-degree office. 4, I am the fittest I have ever been and at my BMI target for the first time since I was a teenager. 5, I have a golf handicap of 13. So you're right, Jonathan, like that's the sort of them in bullet point form, right? But here's when it's a story. Here's the story. Every day I feel proud that I have and continue to help so many people working in our industry to achieve a life they love while positively impacting society. I've never felt so creative in developing new strategies to help photographers create better businesses through our training, mentorship, software, presentation products, and of course, my books, all from my 30-degree circle office of glass facing the sea. I feel great and energetic every day. I am the fittest I've ever been. I love to spend time with our family and grandchildren at our beachfront property. Their creative and inquisitive questions fill me with the excitement for the future. I love my 2 days of golf, my 2 days of tennis games each week, and the opportunity to remain fit and healthy while meeting so many intriguing people. So, Jonathan and Janine, was that different? Did the story version appear different to you than when I just read the bullet point summaries?
Yeah, it was different. Janine's looking at me going, speak.
No, I couldn't find my unmute button. Like I had it timed nicely over my mouse and it moved. I'm like trying to click it and I couldn't unmute myself. So yeah, speak.
Yeah, it did. It did definitely. I mean, obviously that's first draft, and I think you can like make it more emotional and bring in more of a real feel to it. But it's definitely more tangible than just bullet points, I feel. It's easier to visualize, I'm sure, for yourself. I would even write it from the perspective of not only how you're perceiving it in the first person, but you know, think about how others perceive it.
Well, I would say too, Ronan, your bullet points are very story-like. I think for most people, their bullet points are not. And so your bullet points were already almost a story, to be honest with you. So others won't be like that. It'll be like, I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. And so their goal should be to turn it into a story. And you were already halfway there with the way you wrote your bullets.
So people who are doing this exercise round, they're probably wondering, why the blah, blah, blah am I doing this? What's the point? Why do we do this?
Great question, John. The reason why we do this is that if we just set our targets for 2024, right, there's no sort of end sight other than 1 year ahead, right? And often if we do that, it's like, rather, let's say you want to go for a walk, okay? And there's 6 paths that you can possibly go. But if you're only looking a short distance out, the path you choose could be completely different than if you're looking 5 years out. So rather than going on the wrong path that ends us up in the wrong location, it's better just to set a destination that's a little bit out. So, and Janine gave a great example of this. If Janine was only concentrating on her business plan for next year, that insight that she had about Erin possibly not being around and she needing to create a business where she either has a way to attract Erin to come and see her or, right, that she's more time to go and see Erin and holiday with Erin, in the same way as Jennifer this year has had her best year in business ever and had 14 weeks vacation, right? In the inner hive, you know, in the Fully Booked Photographer. So Janine has seen that as not only is Jennifer an inspiration for her in that, but it aligns with what she wants to happen in the future, that she wants to be able to spend a good amount of quality time with Erin.
Yeah, that was an amazing example and illustrated the importance of, sometimes if you make decisions that are short-term decisions, it can impact your medium to long-term ambitions and goals. So, question for you both. Feel free to answer it. Either one of you or both of you. Don't fight over it. When photographers are doing this exercise, punchy punch. When photographers are doing this exercise, what do you feel like are some of the potential limitations that they're going to put on themselves doing it? Because, like you said, for this particular part, using your wide angle lens, you have to remove limitations. You have to think with an unlimited mindset. You have to pretend that imagine you have a magic wand and you can make anything happen. What are some of the potential limitations you guys see photographers placing on themselves and their business?
I'll go first. So, fear of failure, I think fear of failure and experiences to date, and maybe we've set targets before that we didn't achieve and it may have hurt us emotionally and we don't want to feel that pain again. So it's easier just to avoid it and just drift through life. But if you drift through life, you've no idea where you're going to end up. So I think that, and I think it's just also like one of the pro tips that we gave all of our members in going through this process is that the only person who should define their definition of success is you yourself, right? So I think it's also unshackling our desire to please others in some way, because often those people we try and please are based on expectations that other people set as you are not successful unless you get here, which is their definition of success, not your definition of success. So, but often we can be sucked in is the wrong word, but just that because we don't know any different, we think that it's okay for someone else to define what success is as a photography business. And it's not. Only you can define what a successful photography business for you is.
I think that's a good way of looking at it, because I was going to say something similar but a little different, and the feel of failure, but like what other people, I think a lot of times photographers hear what other people say is possible or not possible and then project it onto themselves. And we see that a lot. And they're like, oh, someone in this industry can only do X. And they put that limit on themselves and don't see beyond what the industry tells them they can do, or their other friends in the industry tell them they can do. And so they limit themselves as far as what their success can be, or what they can make their careers and their business ownerships be.
And that goes on a lot in our industry in terms, and the end result I see of that is that often we just give up and seek something else to blame, and then sort of deep dive into being a creative photographer and getting our kicks from just entering print competition, which there's nothing wrong with, right? But if that's the route you choose, well, then you need to have your financial income looked after in another way,
right,
whatever that might be. You can't take on board that mindset and go that route and then give out that, well, I don't make any money and my clients don't value my work bullshit. And I cursed. There's the one curse for
you stole it from me.
Each podcast. I stole it. And all that sort of make believe that we then go and look for someone to confirm that we're right about this, So we go down that confirmation bias angle for other people to tell us that you're right, you're absolutely right, that is the case, when it's not the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you define your success. I think that's important.
It's vital. So wow, that was a quick podcast, wasn't it? The time flew for me anyway. I don't know about you guys.
It flew for me too.
So Jonathan, I think you should tell everyone about the Mifki.
The what?
The Mifki.
Oh my God, the Mifki. Wow, the Mifki is going to help you in achieving those 5-year goals if your plan is still to run a successful photography business, because the Mifki is the most incredible free gift ever. That's what it stands for. And our Mifki to you is that when you say maybe and you test drive the AI-powered Fully Booked engine, which is the best CRM on the planet for professional photography studios, what we're going to do is give you free lifetime access to the coaching, the community, and the weekly call that's going to help you implement our on-demand bookings campaign to help you attract 2 to 3 high-paying clients or more every single week. And all you have to do is click the link below, subscribe to a free 30-day trial, costs nothing, and even if you cancel, which I know you won't, because everyone that takes the trial falls in love with the engine and uses it forever, because it's going to help you fast track that action plan of getting you to your 5-year goal. It's so exciting. I love the Mifki. It's helping so many photographers to fully book their calendar and fill the gaps with their ideal high-paying clients.
All right. So that's it for this podcast. Make sure you do subscribe to the podcast. And if there's another photographer out there, because we don't bring on other leaders in our industry to talk to you guys on this podcast and try and promote this podcast that way, we're relying on you guys to spread the word. If you find the Fully Booked Photographer podcast great, please do tell your friends. And next week, we're going to continue this journey of making sure that you have a robust 2024 plan in place, and that you're ready to be the difference maker you can and amplify the difference you make with the art and science of photography to your clients today, tomorrow, and forever. So we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.